Good morning. Okay, just getting set up for gentle yoga on Monday morning. Let's check the cat. Oh, it's a bit crooked. So I'll have a lopsided practice today. Beautiful. How's the camera? Okay, just getting set up here. Hello, welcome. So just be starting in 2 minutes. Monday morning gentle yoga. Let's check our connections. Okay, perfect. All set to go there. Excellent. Morning, Claire. Okay, beautiful. We're going to go ahead and get started. So we're going to spend a few minutes just to ground ourselves as we begin to work our way into this 75-minute gentle flow class. So find a comfortable seat, and if you like to have a blanket underneath or a block or bolster, you're even welcome to sit in a chair for this opening grounding exercise. So really about finding a sense of comfort and ease. You can even lie down if that feels appropriate for you today. And however you find yourself connecting to the surface you're on, just feel a sense of weightedness and groundedness and really connecting. If you're sitting upright, feel the sits bones rooting into the ground. I'm going to invite you to close the eyes and turn the attention inward here as we start to cultivate that practice of inner focus, to really connect with sensation in the body. Really gives an opportunity to put the sympathetic nervous system on pause. Yoga really allows us to connect with the parasympathetic nervous system, the rest and digest aspect of our autonomic nervous system. So as you continue to notice that connection with your seat, or if you're lying down where your press points are there, continue to notice now an upward lift all the way along the spinal column, allowing it just to maintain its natural shape without trying to force or change or manipulate anything. Just notice its natural tendency for extension upward. Let the shoulder heads relax and fall away from the ears. Allow the skull to rest evenly on the spinal column. So optimally the chin parallel to the floor, crown of the head directly level with toward the ceiling. And bringing the awareness to the breath and just watching and observing that rhythm, the natural rhythmic pace of the breath. There's certain times during a yoga practice where we might introduce different elements of breathing technique. But in this moment, we really just want to allow the natural flow of our breath. Purpose being just to observe the in-breath, the out-breath, and the momentary pause is naturally occurring slight gap that happens at the end of an inhale before starting your exhale. And also on the opposite side of the breath cycle, at the end of the exhale before you start an inhale. And if you, in a sense, just step back and observe that natural flow, this gentle rolling ocean, the wave coming toward the shoreline, the wave receding from the shoreline, the wave coming toward the shoreline and receding from the shoreline. And also that natural momentary pause before the shift, before the change in the direction of the wave or the breath cycle. It's in that quiet, very small moment between the inhale and exhale and the converse that there's a beauty, a silence, a quietude. Now, often during our practice, we pause to observe the breath like this. This is also a useful technique with the mind. So when you notice thoughts coming and going, it's similar in a way to the breath. When you observe a thought come in, just observe it. Oh, there's a thought. We want to avoid the tendency to attach to a thought. In a practice, in the physical aspect of the practice, for example, if there's a realization, a thought comes in that, oh, I raised the wrong arm, quote, quote, just let it go. If you need to adjust your position, you do so. But there's no sort of judgment. We want to avoid that sort of gripping to a thought, clinging and attachment to a thought. So much like we observe the breath, we observe thoughts. The thoughts come, we acknowledge it, and we let it go. And we look for that space in between the thoughts. And some days it seems like they're non-stop. There's no space in between them. And that's fine. That's totally normal and understandable. We just keep acknowledging them, letting them go. Eventually we start to observe a quiet space that occurs between thoughts. Just like that quiet space between the breath. It's that beauty, that sense of stillness, that sense of timelessness. bring the palms to the heart center, but rather than bringing the palms together, let's rest the right palm directly at heart center and rest the left palm on the back of the right hand. Observe now how the inhale expands the chest outward, maybe raising up slightly. And in the exhale, you notice the opposite of this as the chest slightly recedes inward and perhaps downward. To warm up our shoulders, we're going to do a heart third eye opener, and the movement is really coming from the ball and socket joint of the shoulder here. So with the palms on the sternum at heart center, the first thing we do on the inhale is we start to raise the hands away from the chest and upward, flip the hands at the shoulder, turning the shoulder so the back of the hands come toward the third eye, and then raise and extend the arms up overhead. And as the palms face upward here, on the exhale, begin to lower the hands down toward the side. Now as your fingertips reach toward the ground on the inhale, rotate at the shoulders, palms face up, inhale the arms up overhead, and let's bring the hands back down, palms over heart center. So we'll do this just a few times here. It's really warming up the shoulder socket. Flip the hands so the back of the hands come onto the third eye. Inhale the arms up overhead, palms face out as you reach and extend the fingertips, lowering the arms down toward the ground. Once the fingertips come near the ground, rotate again at the shoulders, palms face up, inhale the arms up overhead. And as you bring the hands down through midline, bringing the palms to the heart. Let's do 3 more, please. Flip the palms to the back of the hand, third eye. Inhale the arms up overhead. Reach and extend the arms. As the fingertips reach the ground, rotate at the shoulder, ball and socket joint. Bring the hands up overhead, bringing them down through midline, and palms on the heart. 2 more times. Inhale, flip the palms so the back of the hands at third eye. Inhale, arms overhead. Reach and extend. Fingertips down toward the ground. Again, rotate at the shoulders. Inhale the arms up overhead and bringing the hands down through midline to heart center. Last time now, as you inhale the hands, flip the hands. Inhale the arms overhead. Reach and extend. Fingertips toward the side walls and then down to the ground. Rotate at the ball and socket joint. Inhale, palms facing up. Fingertips toward the ceiling and then bringing the hands down through heart center. Again, resting them at the heart. Let's go ahead and release the hands. We're going to come up to standing as we continue doing a little more work to warm up the shoulders. So find your way up towards standing. I may just have to adjust my different recording implements, make sure everything's visible. Perfect. So as you find yourself standing, rooting squarely down through the 4 corners of your feet, hip width apart, your feet are hip width apart, a slight bend in the knees, just feeling a sense of stability and groundedness here. We're going to inhale the arms up to shoulder height. So reach and extend the fingertips here. Now with the arms at shoulder height, start to make very small circles forward with the arms. And again, you're really noticing that movement in the ball and socket joint. Really small circular motion of the arms as they circle forward. And now you can start to increase the size of the circle, but observe that you're maintaining some stability in the standing. So don't let it start to move your whole torso. we're just moving the shoulders here in the ball stocking joint. Now they might start to grow as large as possible without it impacting movement in your body. And now we'll start with these same large circles, reverse that trend, and we'll make them smaller eventually, but we're doing the larger ones now to start with the arms going backwards here. And then slowly starting to make these a little bit smaller circles. Eventually coming to really tiny sort of micro circles. Ooh, beautiful. Let's go ahead and allow the hands to come back down to the legs. Just going to lose an upper layer here. Warm up a bit and it starts to get a little bit warm. Oops. Losing my microphone and ear pieces. There we go. Hopefully sounds okay. So once more, we're going to inhale the arms up and overhead. Reach and extend the fingertips as you allow the shoulder blades to come together toward one another here. So there's a little bit of an external rotation in the upper arm bone so that the scapula and shoulder blades come together. Beautiful. Now we're going to bend the right arm at the elbow and bring the right palm onto the back. Now bending the left arm and bring the left palm onto the right elbow. So it's a very gentle opening of the shoulder, some beautiful stretch in the upper arm, upper muscles of the right arm. You're gently pulling the right arm in the direction toward the spine. You might notice the palm is either on the left scapula or more facing down onto the spine itself. The right upper arm bone is going directly perpendicular up toward the ceiling. Beautiful. So we'll release the left arm, straighten it up overhead. Release the right arm, straighten it up overhead. And now as you bend the left arm, bring the left palm either onto the right scapula or into the center of the spinal column. Bend the right arm and rest the right palm on the left elbow. Again, a gentle opening and stretch of the upper arm, the upper left arm, as you gently pull the right hand in the direction of the wall on your right, so effectively pulling the left arm closer to the center line of the body. Beautiful. Keep breathing. And as you release the right arm, straighten it up overhead and straighten the left arm up overhead. Beautiful. Allow the hands to come down toward the side. So we're going to do a little bit of work now in our legs and predominantly in the quadriceps. So we're going to come toward a chair pose, rooting down squarely through the four corners of each foot. Again, feet can be hip width apart. If you're accustomed to practicing it with the feet together, it's certainly an option. Some people find that this variety feels a little less stable. So really find what works for you. I'm going to adjust the zoom camera here. So again, hip width apart or together, whichever you prefer. And then I'm going to turn sideways for visual here. I want to show you you're taking the sits bones back as you start to lower the buttocks down and bring the arms out in front of you at shoulder height. Now keep some neutrality in the spinal column. You notice there's the two natural lordotic and kyphotic curves in the spine, but we want to really avoid any sort of excess curvature or arch in the back. Just keeping that neutrality, sits bones sort of going down. Elongate the spinal column, crown of the head is reaching up toward the ceiling. So you're keeping a long line all the way through the spinal column. Glance down at your toes and make sure you can see your toes. If you're not seeing your toes, if your knees are actually blocking the toes, take the hips further back. You want to be able to see your toes. If this gets to the point of too much sensation in the legs and you feel like you can no longer relax into that pose, you might feel a little bit of effort, but if it's a struggle, then just rise up a little higher. Beautiful. We're going to lift up through, pressing through the feet, lift up and bring the hands to heart center. You might feel some strong sensation in the thighs. Now just breathe into any area in your body that you're feeling some sensation. Pausing here, hands at heart center. And we'll come to chair a second time. So when you're ready again, take the arms out in front of you, sink the buttocks backward, take them back and down. Make sure you can see your toes. There's an option here to turn the palms to face inward and raise the arms up alongside the ears. This just creates additional heat in the body, so it's just an option here. And remember to modify poses any way your body needs. If your shoulders are just too strained, you can always rest the palms on the thighs if you needed to. We're looking for activating the work in the thighs and strengthening the thighs. So if there's a challenge or injury in the arms, modify a pose that best suits your needs. Root through the feet, rise up to standing, bring the hands to heart center. Second half of the pose, we turn the attention inward, we connect with our breath, we check on the quality of the breath and the state of the mind. You can allow the hands to come down to heart center if you like, or keep them at to the side of the legs. Or if you'd like to keep them at heart center in Anjali Mudra. It's a lovely way to focus the attention inward. Beautiful. And if the hands are heart center, allow them to come down to the side. We're going to prepare to come to some standing weight-bearing poses. So we're going to come to a little bit of a warrior sequence here, and we'll come toward warrior two. So from the front of your mat, as you root down through the four corners of your left foot, of your right foot, take your left foot back behind you, and turn that foot out at a 45-degree angle. Now for most people, you're intersecting the forward heel to the instep of the back foot. And perhaps the most important anatomical aspect of optimal alignment, make sure that this knee doesn't come ahead of the ankle. If you notice your knee comes ahead of your ankle, you're putting undue strain on your joints in the knee, but it also ripples up into the hip joint. We want to ensure the knee ideally is directly above the ankle. The quadricep, upper leg, might be at an angle, and if it's available to you, walk that back foot further back. This is coming toward parallel with the floor, so 90-degree bend. That doesn't really matter. The most your feet might be this close together. We want to make sure the knee doesn't come ahead of the ankle. And we inhale the arms out at shoulder height. And soft, gentle gaze over the forward middle finger. There's more weight on the outer edge of your back foot than on your front foot. And we also make sure we're not pressing weight into the toes of the front foot, but squarely rooted down through the inside and outside edges of your heel, the big toe mound, and the pinky toe mound. So your big toe mound here and pinky toe mound here with, in this pose, no weight bearing on the toes themselves. Soft, gentle gaze. Now for exalted warrior, rotating the forward palm, raise that arm overhead and drop the back palm onto the back thigh. Now in poses where we raise the arms overhead, some traditions or some practitioners like to turn the gaze up to that raised arm. It's just an option. Some people don't find it very comfortable for their neck, or maybe they feel a little less stable. So So feel free to keep the chin parallel to the floor and keep gazing forward. We'll bring the arms back to shoulder height. And now we're going to come toward warrior side angle. So if you're a regular practitioner and you want to go into an expression that you're familiar with, go ahead and do so. Otherwise, I'm going to walk us through. I would recommend we take the palm of the right palm onto the right thigh and raise the left arm overhead. Straight up and directly overhead. We're really looking to make sure that this left shoulder, the back of the shoulder blade, is going toward the wall behind us. So there might be a tendency for that arm and torso to start coming forward toward the wall in front or toward the ground. If that happens, lift yourself higher up and see taking that shoulder toward the wall behind me. So it's revolving the torso. We want it facing the wall ahead of us. Now, another variation of this is to bring the raised arm alongside the ear, so you keep a long straight line from the back foot out the upper fingertips. And if it's available to you to bend that forward arm and rest the elbow on the forward thigh without losing the integrity of the revolution of the torso, go ahead and do so. If lowering down causes the torso to start to turn to the floor, then just back up and keep that palm on the thigh. We'll inhale our torso back up, take the arms back out at shoulder height for warrior two once again. And straightening that forward leg. Now you might want to bring the stance a little bit closer together for triangle pose. Now as we reach forward with the forward fingertips, rotate the palms, lower the back of the forward hand to the inside of the forward leg. Raise the other arm directly overhead. Now, it's important here to feel active engagement of knitting these ribs together so that you see I'm really broadening through this part of the side body rather than worrying about getting down here where now I'm losing some integrity up here. It's not really important how far down you come if it's going to impact the integrity of this activation here. So being higher up with this broadening and these ribs knitting together is more optimal than trying to get to the floor and losing this engagement here. Lifting from the upper fingertips, we'll come back to warrior two again. And we're going to find our way to the front of the mat, either just walking there or if you want to pivot on the back foot, spring off the back foot and come forward to the front of your mat. Standing in mountain pose, let's close the eyes, turn the attention inward. Second half of the pose, we're really going to connect with the breath. And check the state of the mind. Now observe in the body, is there any different sensation from one side of the body to the other? For some, perhaps, you'll notice a distinction from the one side we worked out feeling a little different than the other side. And for some, maybe not, maybe you don't. And that's, either is fine, really. Just taking the moment to observe. It's about getting in touch with what's going on for you in your body through the observation of sensation. So we're going to prepare to move to the opposite side. So, adjust the camera on this. Beautiful. So standing at the front of the mat, you're rooting down through your left foot. We take the right foot back behind us. And again, turn that out at a 45-degree angle, the back foot. And while I mentioned earlier that for most we'll intersect the forward heel to the instep of the back foot, if that feels unstable, feel free to take the legs wider apart. You can certainly have them toward the outside edges of the mat if that's more appropriate for you today. Again, making sure that forward knee doesn't come ahead of the forward ankle, torso upright and erect, perpendicular to the floor. Breathe the arms out at shoulder height. And soft, gentle gaze over the forward middle finger. At any time in a practice, feel free to close the eyes if that assists in bringing the awareness inward here. sensation, connecting with breath. Checking that optimal alignment, make sure there's more weight on the outer edge of the back foot, see if you can keep the chin parallel to the floor. Gentle string coming up the crown of the head, lifting you upright. Torso perpendicular to the floor. Just notice if you're leaning a little excessively forward or backward. Keeping it squared off in center. Make sure you're not pressing into the front toes here, but equally on the four corners of the foot. And as we come toward Exalted Warrior, we rotate that forward hand, raise it up overhead, drop the back hand onto the back thigh. Again, remember the options, either keep the chin parallel to the floor, soft gentle gaze forward, or turn the gaze toward the raised hand if that feels all right for your neck and for your sense of stability. While we keep flowing through this, I'll just remind you can come out at any point. If you've gone beyond your edge and need to back up a bit, you can bring the legs closer together or just come out and join us again whenever you're ready. Let's go ahead and bring the arms back down to shoulder height, warrior two. As we prepare for warrior side angle, I'll rest my left palm on the left thigh, raise the right arm directly up overhead. And again, observe how the torso is revolved toward the wall in front of you. Option to bring the raised arm alongside the ear. Option to bend that forward arm and rest it on the elbow on the forward thigh. Again, not at the expense of the torso. One of the easiest ways to observe if you start having a movement that causes an impact in a less optimal physiological position, if your shoulder starts to come forward, or your arm, or your torso, that's where you can back up to open that shoulder toward the wall behind you. We bring ourselves back up to warrior two, hands out at shoulder height. And now as we prepare for triangle, straighten that forward leg, perhaps shortening the stance if you'd like. Reach forward with the forward fingertips, rotate the palms and bring the back of the forward hand to the inside of the forward leg and raise the other arm directly overhead. Now in a pose like this, if you notice a lot of constriction and discomfort in the shoulder of the raised arm, there's always an option to bend at the elbow and bring the hand onto the small of the back. So if it's just too much, maybe you're nursing an injury or too unpleasant the sensation, again, bend at the elbow, bring the hand to the small of the back. This also can help inform to make sure that this shoulder is going toward the wall behind you and doesn't start to slope forward. If you have the hand on the small of the back, momentarily straighten the arm so we can lift up and sink back down into warrior two. And again, coming toward the front of the mat, whether you just want to walk there or perhaps pivot on that back foot, spring off, come forward to the front of the mat, standing in mountain pose. Connecting with the breath. Once again, turn that attention inward. Connect with sensation in the body. Beautiful. And as you open your eyes, we'll prepare for standing balance pose. Feel free to go to a wall. We're going to do tree pose, and you can always rest one palm on the wall if that gives you a sense of comfort for stabilization. So whether you're in the middle of the room or at the wall, rooting down through the four corners of your right foot. Now, unlike in our warrior two, where we didn't put any weight on our toes. The toes, while you're still rooting down through the four corners of the foot, the toes are making contact. They do provide a little bit of stabilization in a standing balance pose like this. We'll lift onto the tip toes of the left foot and then open the hip. So we come toward 90-degree angle. So open that hip out to the side. Now you notice that your left heel is pressing just above the right ankle on the right leg. And you pressing the heel in the leg and press the leg back into the heel. Notice now relax that. Just gently rest the heel there. Notice there's not a lot of activation here. Now if you press them in and press that leg back, notice how it really activates in the hip flexors here. And that's part of the beauty of this type of balancing pose, is we really are engaging our hip flexors. We want to activate the standing leg, the right leg in this instance, and hugging the muscles to the bone. There's always a micro bend in our standing leg. So particularly if you have hyperflexive joints, you want a tiny micro bend in the standing leg to prevent locking out the joint. This is a perfectly fine expression of tree. If you prefer to take the foot off the ground and bring the sole of the left foot to the right leg, or perhaps onto the inner thigh, always avoiding placing it on the knee directly. Whichever expression you take, whether the toes are on the ground or the soles on the leg, you can now allow the hands to come to wherever it feels appropriate. That might be at heart center, Anjali Mudra. Perhaps you want to raise the arms up overhead and keep them broad, like branches of a tree. Or if you interlace them into temple, interlocking the fingers, pointer finger going up toward the ceiling. If you take temple, keep a straight arm here. So we want to prevent having a bend in the arms. Perfectly fine in doing branches to have a bend in the arm, but temple is activating the shoulders as well, which we get from straightening our arms. Reach and extend the fingers up if you've taken that option. A soft, gentle drishti gaze, no matter where the hands are, maybe utilizing a non-moving focal point a short distance in front of us. That gentle, focused drishti from within. Releasing the hands, release the leg, and let's just move in any way that brings a sense of ease and comfort, and perhaps shaking out the standing leg. Really making sure you feel a sense of ease here. We're going to move to the opposite side as we root down through the left foot, come to the tiptoes of the right foot and open that hip out to the side. Again, like a gate, opening 90-degree angle. Resting the heel above the ankle, activating the muscles of the standing leg, hugging the muscles to the bone, micro bend in the knee, root through the four corners of the left foot, even while the toes also press into the ground for stabilization, and raise that right foot off the ground if you're so inclined. And wherever the foot lands, adduction, inward, gathering together. Press the left leg into the right foot. Press the right foot into the left leg. Feel this activation in the hip flexors here. Keep the hips open here. If you raise your foot and the knee comes forward, see if you can open that hip out to the side. If it's too tight and constricted, maybe bring the toes back to the ground and work on opening the hip this way. Release the hands, release the legs, and then start to move in any way that brings a sense of ease and comfort here. Shaking it out perhaps. Beautiful. We're going to try another standing balance pose here. Again, I'm just going to adjust my cameras. Okay, so now there's some variations of standing poses where we do head to knee, head to foot, different names for deeper expressions of them. But in this one, so unlike our tree where we're going to open the hip and then turn the or put the foot on the leg. We're going to start with the right foot rooted down through the ground, and we'll come on the tiptoes of the left foot. We're keeping the hips squared off and forward this time. Now, if available to you, you can lift that left leg off the ground, and if you're able to, bring it up toward a 90-degree angle, so the upper leg bone parallel to the floor, and then activate the foot dorsiflexion in the foot. Keep that standing leg engaged. Remember, you can do this at the wall and maybe rest one hand on a wall. And if you've raised your leg toward 90 degree, remember it might be down lower, that's fine, just hold it there. But if you've raised it and you're able to bring the hands around the palms interlocked around the shin, upper shin, go ahead and do that. Keeping that standing leg integrity. Now I'm just going to adjust my position for visuals to show that we, again, want to make sure we're not compromising our optimal anatomical or standing position. So if by grabbing the leg I'm hunching forward, then it's more optimal that I just stand steady and let the leg come out in front of me. So only grab it if we can maintain this natural upward lift through the spinal column here. Beautiful. If you grab the leg, go ahead and release it. And again, you might just want to take a moment here just to find that sense of release, relief, maybe shaking out the standing leg. We'll move to the opposite side here as you root down through the left foot. Come onto the tiptoes of the right foot. Take that right foot off the ground. Remember to keep the active engagement of the muscles of the left leg, micro bend in the knee. If you are able to bring it up toward 90-degree angle, perfect. Activate dorsiflexion in the foot. Perfectly fine to hold it here as well. And perhaps you want to grab the palms around the upper shin. Again, keeping that uptrendedness all the way through the standing leg, up through the spinal column, up through the crown of the head, reaching the seat and chin parallel to the floor. Whichever expression you have, maybe you've only got it raised a few inches off the ground. Maybe you're at the wall, just utilizing that hand to help balance and prop you up. Release the hands, release the leg, and shake it out. We've done a lot of work in our hip flexors, so vital and crucial to our well-being as we age, being able to maintain doing stairs into our 70s, 80s, 90s even. So these muscle, the hip flexors, the hip rotators, the gluteal muscles that activate as well, piriformis muscles, beautiful. Keeping active here really allows us to maintain that sense of lift and ease and strength to rise up stairs. Beautiful. Let's come down through a squat. Now we're going to come toward a wide-legged squat, so you can turn your feet to the outside edges of the mat. I'm going to adjust my position here. Great. The outside edges of the mat. Now, like we did in our chair pose, we want that neutrality in the spine, neither curve or arch of the spine, just keeping it neutral here. And start to lower the sits bones down as the spine elongates, crown of the head up. And you start to lower down. Now for some, you're going to be able to come straight through, the torso coming straight between the legs, lowering quite far down. You can even bring the hands into heart-centered Anjali Mudra, gentle opening of the legs by gently pressing the elbows into the inner leg, a little bit of activation in, or opening in the hips here. Now for some, perhaps you're not able to come down that far today. So you can rest the hands on the thighs, and again, keeping that neutrality in the spine. So again, a little more work here for the quads. This is a little bit like chair, if that's where you're at. And even if you do lower down, for some you might notice the heels lift. That's fine if they do. And in some situations, you can also either roll up your mat or bring a blanket underneath or a block right under the heels if they start to rise up, so that you can find a sense of relaxation into this pose. Now notice the neutrality in the spine here. I'm not arching nor curve, well, I don't even know that I could curve the back very much here. But you really just want to see that there's that sense of neutrality, spinal column, sits bones going down, spinal column lifting, crown of the head going up. Beautiful. We'll go ahead and come down toward seated on our mat. Now as you take the legs out in front of you, we can shake them out a little bit and bring the hands alongside you and just also shake them side to side. Ah, that's good. A little bit of release and relief for the hips there. Now I want to walk the flesh off my sits bones. So I can put my hand under my butt cheek and just pull it backwards so that the sits bones, those are those little bony nubs at the bottom of the pelvis. Their anatomical term is the ischial tuberosities. You really want to feel those firmly connected to the mat here. We have the legs stretched out in front of us. We're going to hug the muscles to the bone and activate the feet dorsiflexion. So now the toes pointing directly up toward the ceiling with active engagement, hugging the muscles to the bone. We're going to bring the hands alongside the body, palms pressing down, fingertips are pointing forward. And as you press through the palms, notice it can give additional lift through the spinal column. Chin parallel with the floor, gazing directly forward. Really hug the muscles to the bone. If someone walked in here right now, they'd think you're just sitting there, but you really want to feel activation. So there's more activity going on here than it appears. Really active engagement by hugging your muscles to the bone. It's like there's a squeezing in a sense of the muscles, but there's not a squeezing or contraction in your breath. You keep always breathing. In yoga, we allow the breath to flow. There might be the occasional pranayama, breathwork practice, where we change the breath, there's a little bit of holding. Not in the physical aspects of our practice. We always allow the breath to keep flowing. If you're ever in a physical pose and you observe that the breath has paused or stopped or is labored and difficult, that's an indication that you've gone beyond your edge and you want to back up. So as you keep rooting down to the sits bones, keep the engagement in the legs, keep the elongation of the spine, inhale the arms out to the side, turn the palms to face up, inhale the arms overhead, coming with the biceps alongside the ears. As we prepare for a seated forward fold, I'm just going to change my position here to demonstrate that we're looking to come toward a hinging at the hips. So again, like we talked about before with the neutrality of the spinal column, we want to prevent this curvature or an arch, and coming from 90 degrees and starting to close that. So there's an option to bend the knees, particularly if you feel tight hamstrings or tightness in the low back. Start to lead with the sternum and come into a forward fold. Pause when you feel the first amount of sensation beyond what you were feeling when you were sitting upright. Wherever that is, it might be in the back of the legs, it might be in the low back, maybe it's in the shoulders and neck. Pause here and breathe. As you breathe, you might come a micromillimeter further forward, or maybe not. Sometimes the breath, you just notice that natural lift, and as you exhale, coming further down, and then let the hands fall down to the mat, either alongside the legs or maybe on the legs. Now keep rooting to your sits bones, keep elongating the spinal column upward here, crown of the head up toward the ceiling. So we're lifting the torso out of the pelvis. This isn't about this pose. There's some similar poses where we're trying to get the face down toward the legs. This one is not that. Don't worry about how far down you are coming. Worry about how much you're extending the torso out of the pelvis. Well, don't worry. Focus on it. Beautiful. One of my teachers reminds me that translating the Sanskrit words into English can be challenging. And while we refer to these as forward folds, they should technically be considered a forward extension. So unlike where we think about folding something, feel like you're extending the pelvis, extending forward. Beautiful. So as we exit, you can either walk on fiber-tip fingers to come back upright, or with a deep engagement of the core muscles in the deep abdominal muscles here, you raise the arms up alongside the ears and you slowly lift the torso back upright. So it's this slow, engaged, activated movements that are strength building. A lot of the poses where we're resting and, like say butterfly, we're opening and relaxing joints. But the strength comes in slow, active, engaged movements. So rather than coming out, I want it slow with activation. Beautiful. So we're going to come down toward bridge pose. So a little more activation of these hip flexors that we've been working with a lot today. So as you lie down on your back, with the knees bent, soles of the feet are flat on the ground. Before we move into a bridge pose, I just want us to observe the positioning of the pelvis. Now notice as you rock your pelvis away from the head, so toward the direction in front of your shins or your knees, notice that there's this big curve that comes under the back where you could slide your hand under, for example. Now, do the opposite and rock the pelvis back toward the direction of the wall behind your head. And notice how the curve disappears and your full spine fully flush with the mat. There's actually even a broadening and spreading of the low back and sacrum and into the mat. One more time, rock the pelvis forward just to observe that shifting of the pelvic bowl, creating that arch, that curve in the back. And then rock it toward the wall behind you to keep that spine fully flush with the mat. Now this is the position for this bridge today. And again, poses can be modified in multiple ways. I find this is the most supportive for the active engagement of our hips, but also to keep a softness in the front line of the body. So we want to rock the pelvis toward the back, press the back, the wall behind the head, press the low back, spread it wide, press it into the mat. Now for our bridge, we root through our feet and through the upper back and shoulders. Now notice that the head is resting on the ground, but there's no amount of pressure. You're not bearing weight there any more than is naturally occurring. As you keep rooting through the feet and upper back, start to lift the hips up off the mat and take the pelvis up toward the ceiling and also forward toward the wall in front of you. So you notice this long line through the front side of the body, softness in the belly, so we're not gripping the abdominals here. Also, we're not clenching the gluteal muscles. They're certainly activated as we keep lifting the hips higher, rooting through the feet. Adduction now. Imagine you had a block between your knees that you're squeezing together. Notice how this activates the gluteal muscles, the quadriceps. Lift the hips up higher, take them forward, adduction inward, the arms alongside the body, palms could be facing down. We'll go ahead and release one vertebra at a time, slowly lowering the buttocks back down toward the mat. We're going to rest here for several breaths as you eventually let the sacrum come back to the ground here. I cannot underscore the value of these type of weight-bearing exercises. When my mother had a hip replacement a number of years ago, this was one of the very first exercises that the physiotherapist had her doing multiple times a day. You can imagine in a hip replacement, they cut through muscle. So you're looking not only just to strengthen muscle, you're looking to reformulate muscle, for it to grow, cut muscle, to reconnect and strengthen for sure around that new joint. This is so integral to the well-being of the whole area of our hip and all of the muscles responsible for our walking and our lifting our legs so that we can walk up steps. So beautiful. Let's go ahead and prepare for another bridge pose here. Again, rock the pelvis back toward the wall behind the head, and begin to lift the hips up off the mat, up toward the ceiling and forward. If you're a regular practitioner of this pose and you like variations such as rolling onto the shoulder heads and coming into Yoga Mudra, interlacing the hands, go ahead and do that. Other options are to bend the arms at 90-degree angle and press the upper arm into the ground as you utilize that to give additional lift through the torso, fingertips reaching up to the ceiling. Make sure that even though there's not any pressure on the back of the head, do not turn your head to the side in a pose like this. If you need to look at something, if someone came into your room to talk to you, come out of the pose and take any weight off the head before turning the head. Remember to keep pressing down through the feet, keep lifting the pelvis higher, keep the abduction inward like you had a block between your legs. You come out whenever you're ready. If you're interlace the hands to Yoga Mudra, go ahead and release that. If you've bent the arms, go ahead and straighten them again. Slowly lowering the vertebra one at a time as you bring the pelvis and sacrum back down to the mat. And then we're going to lift the feet off the mat with the knees bent, hug the knees in toward the chest. Oh, beautiful counter movement for the low back here. You can either remain stationary or, if it feels nice, gentle rocking side to side. Beautiful. Now as you come back to the center, resting on your sacrum with the knees bent, go ahead and straighten the left leg out in front of you, but keep both hands now around the right shin. Now take your left hand to the outside of the right thigh. Take your right arm away from you in a T formation. Now we're going to, with the left hand, pull the right leg across the midline of our body and take the right leg off the left side of the mat, toward the left side of the mat. As you come into this beautiful twist here, make sure that your right shoulder is connected to the mat. And you might turn the gaze toward the outstretched right hand. So rather than trying to get the right knee to the ground and having the right shoulder lift, don't worry how far over the knee comes. Ensure you keep that right shoulder connected to the ground. That's where you're getting this beautiful long line twist through the side of the body. Again, activating that hip flexion. You might feel it there. Some people will, some not so much. On the right side. If you've turned the gaze over the outstretched arm, bring the head back to center. Raise the leg back up to midline. Now go ahead and straighten the right leg up toward the ceiling. Bring the hands around the back of the thigh. And you can again either pull the knee in toward the chest, and another option is take the leg straight up overhead. If it's available to you, you can actually raise the hands up to the back of the calf, and take the leg a little bit in the direction toward the wall behind the head. Cautious here with the hamstrings. If it's too much sensation, you can always bend the knee and just hug the knee in toward the chest. Beautiful. As you release the right leg, we'll place the right sole of the foot flat on the ground to begin with and bend the left leg. Now lift the left foot off the ground, hug the knee in toward the chest, and now straighten the right leg out in front of you. Hugging the left knee in toward the chest, really noticing the inner part of the hip here. Now taking the right hand to the outside of the left thigh, take the left hand away from you in a T formation and bring that left leg across the right side of the body. Bring the knee toward the ground as you keep this right shoulder glued to the mat. And perhaps turn the gaze over the outstretched hand, or you can always just rest on the back of the skull and gaze up toward the ceiling. Feel free to close the eyes and bring the attention inward here. at the in and outflow of the breath, the pause between the breath. Checking the state of the mind. And again, just not anchoring onto any thoughts that come. You just observe them. Oh, there's a thought, and let it go. We're not trying to deny they exist. We're not trying to push them away. They will come. Just let them go. If you're gazing over that outstretched hand, bring the head back to center. Raise the leg back up to center. Bring the hands around the left leg now. And begin to straighten the leg and bring the hands around the back of the thigh. You can straighten the leg up toward the ceiling to begin. Remember, there's an option to keep the knee bent and then hug the knee in toward the chest again. If you do have the hands around the back of the thigh, option to bring them up around the back of the calf. And again, take that left leg toward the wall behind you. Again, if there's too much sensation in the hamstrings here, if you've got tighter hamstrings like I do, you can always bend the knee a little bit here. Go ahead now and bend the knee, release it and bring it down to the ground. With the legs stretched out in front of you, take the arms overhead along the ground, really reach and extend the fingertips toward the wall, and stretch the legs out, really a long line through the whole body, big, big stretch. And just exhale and let everything go. So we're going to prepare for Shavasana now. If your body is asking any last minute movement from you, listen intuitively to that request. Your body knows the way. Listen to what it's asking of you. And maybe what it's asking is, oh, I'm done, time for Shavasana. So then we'll honor that. So if you need another 30 seconds or 45 seconds just to move in any way that your body is asking of you, just honor that space. And if you're complete and ready to move to Shavasana, feel free to grab an article of clothing or blanket or sweater or socks. What's something you might like to keep you warm, that you won't feel any sort of draft. And transitioning towards Shavasana, we'll take the legs straight out in front of us. Unless you're feeling discomfort in the low back, you can always bend the knees in that case. Rest the soles of the feet flat on the ground. Notice this just changes the position of the pelvis like we were doing in our bridge preparation pose. So if you're feeling strain in the low back, this is a really nice way to create that sense of ease. Because as we move to Shavasana, you really want to feel relaxed. So if the legs are stretched out in front of you, the feet are splaying outward, arms alongside the body. They're about 15 degrees off center. Rest the back of the hand on the mat so the palms and fingertips face upward. If you notice your skull collapsing backward onto the back of the head and sort of a shortening of the back line of the neck, you can gently lift the head off the mat, lengthen the back of the neck, lower the head back down, and now you're resting on the occipital ridge rather than the back of the skull. This way the crown of the head is more perpendicular, parallel to the wall behind you, creates a greater sense of relaxation in the trachea, perhaps creating greater sense of ease in the breathing, and then also the Shoshona channel, the energy line, the yogic energy line, so similar to the energy that we talk about in other modalities like Qigong or Tai Chi. Similar concept here, allowing the energy flow. And now relax and let the body sink into the ground. Imagine your bones were lead weights now that just really root you and ground you and weigh you down. Scan the awareness through the body and just observe if there might be any area that you're feeling some gripping or holding. And if you encounter this, invite some greater sense of relaxation, some greater sense of letting go. Really feel rooted through the shoulders, the upper back, and the buttocks pressing down into the mat, and the backs of the legs. If you've got the knees bent, then feet are pressing down. If the legs are straight out in front of you, maybe the thighs, most likely the calves, the back of the heels, really rooting down. Relaxed and releasing. The backs of the arms are heavy, sinking, grounded. The weight of gravity pulling you down. And the back of the head resting firmly on the mat. Bring the attention to the third eye, the space in between the eyebrows, and just a few inches outside in front of your head, maybe at 3 or 4 inches. See if you can focus your concentration here, even with the eyes closed. Gently start to lengthen the breath. And just breathing in some vitality and activation. Gentle, quiet, slow movements. Just maybe starting to rub the finger pads together. Maybe start to wiggle the fingers, maybe wiggle the toes. Maybe even rotating out the wrists and ankles. Just starting to move in any way that brings a sense of reawakening, physical reawakening. curling into a little ball. Easy. Rock gently side to side a couple of times. And finally landing on the right hand side in a fetal position. As you stretch out your upper leg and pressing into the upper arm, bring yourself to an upright, seated position. Taking a moment to adjust here to find a comfortable seat. And let's go ahead and bring the hands onto the heart center again. You can layer one palm on top of the other with the hands at heart center. Just taking a moment here, observing the breath, raising up in the chest, expanding outward. On the exhale, slightly recedes in the opposite direction. Just a few times here watching that breath. Feeling a fullness in your heart. A sense of love and compassion. Kindness and grace. You always feel an abundance of this and so much more. May your own cup be overflowing so that you may always shine this forward to everyone you encounter. The light in me acknowledges and bows to the light in you. Jabagwan and Namaste. Beautiful. Thank you for joining each Monday here, 9:30 for Gentle Flow. I'm also here on Fridays at 9:30 Pacific Standard Time, UTC -8, for a hatha flow. And if you're so inclined, I'll say goodbye if you're ready to go. Otherwise, I just wanted to share a reading. It's from one of the publications from the National Institutes of Health a few years ago. This one is. And it was a compilation of the scientific studies into the therapeutic effects of yoga. And, you know, sometimes we say, why yoga instead of just a stretching class? And we realize there's so much more to yoga than just movement, right? So I'll share a brief summation of this document. If you're interested in checking it out, it's by Catherine Woodyard on the National Institutes of Health, exploring the therapeutic effects of yoga and its ability to increase the quality of life. In here she writes, yoga is a form of mind-body fitness that involves a combination of muscular activity and internally directed mindful focus on awareness of the self, the breath, and energy. Yoga is recognized as a form of mind-body medicine that integrates the individual's physical, mental, and spiritual components to improve aspects of health, particularly stress-related illnesses. Evidence shows that stress contributes to the etiology of heart disease, cancer, and stroke, as well as other chronic conditions and diseases. Due to the fact that stress is implicated in numerous diseases, it is a priority to include a focus on stress management and reduction of negative emotional states in order to reduce the burden of stress. Viewed as a holistic stress management technique, yoga is a form of complementary and alternative medicine that produces a physiological sequence of events in the body, reducing the stress response. And hence, that's the importance of Shavasana, turning the attention inward, allowing that parasympathetic nervous system, which she refers to in other paragraphs of this report, how important that is for our sense of well-being, for calming stress. So it's so crucial to our overall well-being and health, both physical, mental, emotional, spiritual. Anyway, blessings. Look forward to connecting again. Have a wonderful day.